Does President Trump really believe? Does he want to run for a third term, or is that just a joke? Does he intend to seize control of Gaza and expel millions of Palestinians, or is that just a suggestion? Is Black History Month a waste of time and money, or worth a lavish celebration at White House? Anyone looking for definitive answers will have a hard time finding them. Since storming back into office, Mr. Trump has used a dizzying rhetorical tactic of shifting positions like quicksand, muddying his messages and contradicting himself, sometimes in the same day.
I want to find the answers. I've told them. In fact, today I said, I want to find, we can no longer blame Biden for that one. He should have released that a long time ago. So they are giving me a report next week sometime, and I do believe I'll be releasing. I want to release the report. A lot of people have asked that question. You had one who had 3 apps, 2 of which were foreign, supposedly, and who has the biggest white shoe law firm in Pennsylvania, even though they don't live in necessarily a white shoe area. What's that all about? His law, the law firm. The other one had 7 or 6 cell phones, and I don't have 6 cell phones. And why would somebody have 6 cell phones? So we're going to be releasing a report on that soon, Peter.
But based on what you're saying right there, the lack of information and the data points that you just gave, does that make you think that there's some part of that there's some bigger?
It could be. Well, it makes other people think that. It makes me think it a little bit too. I say, when you have 3 apps and 2 of them are foreign, and you had an FBI that wouldn't report on it, they didn't want to say why, I would say that could be suspicious. And then on the second assassin, you had, and by the way, I have to tell you, Secret Service did a great job on that by spotting him. But on the second one, he had 6 cell phones. That's a lot of cell phones. And a couple of them had some strange markings on them. So, yeah, I want to find out, and I would be willing to release it. I mean, maybe there's a reason that we shouldn't, so I don't want to get too far ahead of my skis, but yeah, I would be very willing to release that. I'd like to see it. I want to see it myself, Peter. Not only you, I want to see that one myself.
Mr. President,
may I?
Yes.
President Macron yesterday said that France was ready to offer its nuclear protection to other European countries.
The inconsistencies have presented the American public with dueling narratives at every turn, allowing people to pick and choose what they want to believe.
Ukraine for safety reasons, if we can get it. I will say that we've made a lot of progress with Ukraine and a lot of progress with Russia over the last couple of days. And it'd be great to bring that to an end so we don't have to talk that way about nuclear. It'd be great if everybody would get rid of their nuclear weapons. We have Russia and us have by far the most. China will have an equal amount within 4 or 5 years. And it would be great if we could all denuclearize, because the power of nuclear weapons is crazy. It is crazy. And I was very far along a process with Russia, despite the Russia hoax, which didn't make it easy. It was a total hoax, a total rigged hoax by some bad people. But despite that, I was very close to having a program with Russia, denuclearization, and we were going to get China. I spoke to President Xi about it, and he would have been very happy to have gone along with it. But bad things happened, like an election that was rigged happened, and so we had to come back 4 years later. But I would very much like to start those talks. The opposite of what you say, the denuclearization would be incredible.
Mr. President, on the auto tariffs that you were talking about, I know yesterday you spoke with the big 3. Did you tell them that no more exemptions were on the way, and what was the reaction?
I told them, that's it. This was a short-term deal. And they came back to me yesterday. They said, could we have some help on the tariffs because of the speed? And I said, look, I'm going to do it, but that's it. Don't come back to me after the April 2nd. I don't want to hear from you after April 2nd. We're not going to be doing it anymore. I want to help them.
What was their response?
They didn't complain, but I helped them short-term during this short-term transition. April 2nd is going to be a very big day for America.
Mr. President, my understanding is that the longstanding U.S. policy is that we do not negotiate with terrorists. So how did you come to the decision to send somebody from your team to negotiate with Hamas?
We are having discussions with Hamas. We are helping Israel in those discussions because we're talking about Israeli hostages. And we're not doing anything in terms of Hamas. We're not giving cash. We're not giving $6 billion like you hear other administrations give. And in fact, I got 59 hostages out, and we gave nothing. In 59, we gave nothing, not including what's going on with Hamas. I mean, I consider that something where we're helping Israel for the most part. We had a couple of hostages, as you know. We got a couple of hostages out, American hostages.
Mr. President,
But certainly, Peter, you have to negotiate. There's a difference between negotiating and paying. We want to get these people out. If you would have seen the people yesterday, maybe you did, I don't know, but if you would have seen them, the way they spoke about their captivity, it was unbelievable. It's terrible.
Are you thinking about making any changes to NATO where a NATO country gets attacked, but they're not paying enough dues, so the United States doesn't defend them?
Well, I've said that to them. I said, if you're not going to pay, we're not going to defend. I said that 7 years ago. And because of that, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, if you're not going to pay your bills, we're not going to defend you. And it also went for the attack. But if they got attacked, they said, well, does that mean you won't defend us? I said, are you current or are you delinquent? They said, if we were delinquent, would you? I said, nope, I would not. And because of that, as you know, hundreds of billions of dollars came into NATO. You wouldn't have NATO right now if I weren't there. And your previous Secretary General has said that. He said he's never seen anything like it. When I came to NATO, when I first had my first meeting, I noticed that people weren't paying their bills at all. And I said I should wait till my second meeting, and I did. And I brought that up. And I said, if you don't pay your bills, we're not going to participate. We're not going to protect you. And when I said that, as soon as I said that, it was amazing how the money came in. The money came in, and now they have money. But even now, it's not enough. It's really not enough. They should be paying more.
Mr. President, question on the investment, sir. You've overseen about $2 trillion worth of domestic private sector investments come in just about 2 months. This is the newest one. It comes after your announcement of a new shipbuilding office at the White House during your joint session to Congress. Can you talk about why this is important, not only for national security, but to continue the renaissance of domestic manufacturing?
Well, we have to maintain a strong country. We have to maintain, we want to pay off debt. We have a lot of debt, but that'll start.
About the president's intentions? Mr. Trump has long dealt in distortions and lies, including in his first term, but as he executes a much more aggressive agenda at home and abroad, his contradictions have become more brazen and more pronounced. He says so much you can't really pin him down, said Julian E. Zelizer, a Princeton history professor and editor of a book of essays about Mr. Trump's first term. The point isn't to have a contradiction, the point is to have cover. The reality of our modern information world is that you can pick and choose what you want to believe, Mr. Zelizer added. He instinctively knows that. Within hours of taking office, Mr. Trump pardoned Jan, 6 riders who assaulted Capitol police officers, a move that clashed with his professed support for law enforcement. He spent his first weeks disparaging diversity, equity, and inclusion policies as harmful and blamed diversity efforts at the Federal Aviation Administration for a deadly plane crash over the Potomac River. But just hours after the Jan 29 crash, he backtracked. We want the most competent people, he said. We don't care what race they are. Mr. Trump has eviscerated federal programs aimed at combating inequality in America, and his Defense Department announced that the military would no longer use official resources to mark Black History Month. Mr. Trump then marked the occasion in a formal ceremony in the White House. His foreign policy pronouncements are equally baffling. Last month, after making a stunning announcement that the United States would seek to seize the Gaza Strip, permanently displace the Palestinian population, and rebuild the seaside enclave as the Riviera of the Middle East, Mr. Trump changed his proposals several times over 2 weeks before saying it was merely a recommendation. Earlier this week, during an address to Congress, he invited Greenland to choose to be owned by the United States. We strongly support your right to determine your own future, and if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America, he said. Moments later, he suggested it may not be a choice at all. One way or the other, we're going to get it, he said. On the matter of Ukraine, Mr. Trump, in a social media post, called the country's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, a dictator without elections. Later, when pressed on whether he actually believed that, Mr. Trump said, "Did I say that? I can't believe I said that." White House officials argue that, especially on foreign policy matters, Mr. Trump is showing his skill as a tough negotiator whose messages adjust to the fluidity of serious situations. And aide, speaking on the condition of anonymity, said that Mr. Trump's ambiguity about the situations in the Middle East and Ukraine had pushed both regions closer to peace. The American public has ample opportunity to listen to the words of President Trump directly when he speaks to the press and directly to the American people on a near daily basis. As the most accessible and transparent president in American history, Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, said in a statement, adding that Americans recognize the beauty of the art of the deal. Throughout his career as a businessman and a politician, Mr. Trump became known as much for deal-making as he was for perfecting contradictions. Tony Schwartz, the ghostwriter of Mr. Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, has said, "The president has one goal. His aim is never accuracy," Mr. Schwartz wrote in an opinion essay during Mr. Trump's first term. It's domination. Mr. Trump has boasted about his meandering speaking style, which he calls the weave, and he often muses about things like whether he should be granted a constitutionally prohibited third term, with a wink and a nod. But experts say the dissonance can become dangerous. Once you undermine consistency, the shared sense of reality, you're undermining the basis of democracy, said Jason Stanley, a Yale professor who has written books about propaganda and the erasure of history. If there's no shared sense of reality, we can't collectively make decisions, so the only decision maker will be the disruptor in chief. Mr. Stanley said Mr. Trump's contradictions boil down to a simple truth. If you're constantly contradicting yourself, he said, you're constantly lying.